first of all, let me say I agree with everything Patrick just said. It was a strong response last night. However, nothing happens in a vacuum. And there's actually policy decisions that got us to where we are today. And those policy decisions started in the early days of the Biden administration. So on January 11th, 2021, exactly 3 years ago, after about a year of putting together the package, the Trump administration under Mike Pompeo, under our State Department in which I served, we designated the Houthis as a terrorist organization. 3 years later, January 11th, 2024, the Biden administration had to pursue the strikes yesterday. What happened in those 3 years? Well, in the first few weeks of the Biden administration, they removed that terrorism designation from the Houthis. I've talked about this a lot. That matters because literally 2 days after they removed that designation, the Houthis started their attacks. So they removed that designation without getting anything for it. No negotiation. The Houthis didn't have a come to Jesus moment and say, we're going to stop terrorism. They clearly continued it. Second, in February of 2021, Biden gave a speech in which he said, we're no longer going to send these defensive weapons to Saudi Arabia. We have to stop the war in Yemen. And there was a lot of civilian casualties. That war was not without controversy. But Saudi was going after the Houthis and was trying to decrease their capabilities to commit terrorist attacks, which were happening against civilian infrastructure in Saudi. Biden said 3 years ago, no mas. So what's happened over the past 3 years? They stopped Saudi Arabia from going after the Houthis. They took away their terrorism designation. And the Houthis have had 3 years of being able to equip and train themselves. And of course, they've done that, as you just said, through Iran, who has had about $90 billion that they have earned from oil revenue from sanctions that have not been enforced. So they've had $90 billion not only to give to Hamas, Hezbollah, and to the Houthis. Right now, we have the nightmare scenario that we said we never wanted after 9/11. Dagan, you and I are old enough to remember after 9/11, what did we always say? We always worried about sophisticated weaponry getting in the hands of terrorist group. We now have in the hands of terrorist group ballistic missiles going after our U.S. ships, going after our Navy sailors, going after civilian infrastructure. You're talking about sophisticated drones. You're not talking about IEDs or stuff that we saw in the early days of Iraq and Afghanistan. You're talking about ballistic missiles that the terrorist group has, and it has it because Iran has been enabled and allowed to give these weapons to the Houthis. So 3 years of disastrous Iran policy led to Hamas on October 7th. It led to the Houthi attacks, which is stopping shipping and commerce, and which is going directly after our American sailors and our American ships. So thank you for the attack last night. It's about a day late and a dollar short.
Can I just mention something real quick? Because I agree, Morgan, I agree with you that the Houthi rebels, they're a terrorist organization. So I absolutely agree with that. I think it's longer than 3 years, though. The major counterbalance to Iran actually was Iraq, because Iran Shia, Iraq was Sunni-led under Saddam Hussein, and when we took out Saddam Hussein, that was the counterbalance to Iran. So they've been getting stronger year after year for the last couple decades, since we overtopped it. And again, I'm not saying Saddam was a bad person, so I'm not arguing that. But there was this natural counterbalance. But I do think that people are waking up to the region, that there's still this Sunni versus Shia, and that's why Saudi Arabia is a Sunni-led country.
But it's not just Sunni and Shia, because Hamas is not Shia. Iran has the desire to remove the United States out of the Middle East and to wreak havoc on the Middle East. We unveiled in the final days of the Trump administration that al-Qaeda senior leadership, who are Sunni, were being given safe haven in Iran. So it is Sunni and Shia in many places, but it's not just that. Iran doesn't care if they're funding a Sunni terrorist organization. If it will wreak havoc in the Middle East, will destroy Israel, and will ultimately kick the United States out. That's their goal. They don't want us in the region at all.